Hey guys, I'm Ivory and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a 2-day wear test on the Milani Screen Queen Natural Finish Foundation. I'll be showing you how it applies initially, as well as checking in throughout the day to show you how it wears. For anyone that's new here, I have oily and acne prone skin, so my wear tests are catered towards people with similar skin types. And if you find that my reviews are helpful, I will link up here a playlist of all the other wear tests that I have done. In case you were looking for other foundation reviews, I might have already tested them for you. Before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I post new videos every single week, and also be sure to follow me on my social media. Everything is _ivorypcherry. So before I get into the review, I wanted to break down each of the days. For anyone that's familiar with the format of my wear test and doesn't care for this part, I will put somewhere on the screen the timestamp for the first day, so you could just go ahead and skip this part. On the first day, half my face I used primer, and then the other side I used nothing. And in addition to that, half my face I used a brush, and then the other half of my face I used a microfiber sponge, just to see if one applicator is better than the other. And then depending on how it looks at the end of the day, I will take whatever methods worked for today and apply that to the next day. And on the second day, on top of using what worked on the first day, I'm also going to be applying loose setting powder underneath my foundation, which is a little tip that I've learned to help prolong oils from coming through. It can also help the foundation from separating and just helps it keep it together longer, but it doesn't always work, so that's what we're going to be testing. And the second day is also the day that I'm going to be showing you what the foundation looks like in natural lighting, because it's very different than with the ring light and the soft boxes. And by the second day, hopefully I'll be able to tell whether or not I recommend this foundation or not. Feel free to skip around, I really don't mind. In my description box below, you will find timestamps for each of the days, so that way I made it a little bit easier for you guys. So this is what the foundation looks like. It has all the things that I like in a foundation bottle. It is pretty small. The glass is clear, so it's easy to shade match. It has a pump, although I don't really mind a squeezy tube either. Its main selling point is that it has a digital blue light filter. To me, it's a little bit gimmicky because there's no way that I can test that. For anyone that doesn't know, blue light is something that comes off screens such as your phone, your tablets, your computer. I didn't know that it could do anything to your skin. All I knew was that it could make it harder to fall asleep, which is why people tell you not to be on your phone before you go to bed. But that is its main selling point. So like I said, one side of my face I used primer. I used the L'Oreal Infallible Matte Lock Primer. I like this one more than the other ones that I have, but I'm definitely not a huge advocate for primer. I often find that it makes little to no difference. And then on one side of my face I used a brush. The one I used is the Sigma Round Kabuki, which is the F82. And on the other side of my face, I used a Juno & Co. microfiber sponge. The shade I'm using in foundation is 380 Deep Tan. It's supposed to have a luminous, natural skin finish. It's buildable light to medium coverage. It's cruelty-free. It's vegan. It has 1 fluid ounce and retails for $13.99. And like I said earlier, it has the digital blue light filter, which is supposed to help fight dullness, hyperpigmentation, and discoloration from your skin. Now, usually when I compare a brush between my microfiber sponge, I'd say about 95% of the time I would say that I prefer the sponge. Today was actually a day where they were even. On the first layer, I used 2 pumps for each side and I used it all, and I felt like the coverage looked about the same. I really couldn't see the difference. The coverage on the first layer was, I would say it's light. It's kind of close to medium, not quite there, but the second coat for sure got me to medium. I wouldn't say that this is completely full, especially without all the powders, because when I had just the foundation, I could still see my discoloration and my acne peeking through, but when everything is piled on top, it's harder to see. But if you're just looking to do only foundation, I would say that this is a medium coverage. And also I wanted to note that on the second layer, I didn't use 2 pump again on each side. I used 1.5 pumps and I split it for each of the applicators. So each side has a little over 3 pumps per side, which is more than I usually use, but I tend to use more when I'm doing side-by-side comparisons. I don't use nearly that much when I'm only using one applicator. After that, I did the rest of my face and everything applied just fine on top of the foundation. And now I've been wearing this foundation for a little over 2 hours. That's because I did my makeup first and I decided to take a break before I do my intro. One thing I wanted to note is that the foundation on my chin already seems to be cracking, which is really early for this point. And same thing on this smile line, it's starting to crack a little bit. And anywhere I have a wrinkle or a crease, like this one right here in my forehead, it's already settling into that line. So this, I would still count this time as the first impressions, even though I'm 2 hours in. It's a little bit disappointing that this is how it's looking so early on. Hopefully it doesn't get worse than this, but only time will tell. So that is it for the first impressions. I'm gonna check in probably a little bit past the halfway point since I'm already 2 hours in, but I'll try and check in around the 6-7 hour mark and show you what it looks like at that point. We are now a little past the 6 hour mark. I'm gonna be wearing this for 10 hours today. Oil wise, It's not horrible. I've had better. If I wasn't doing a wear test, I would probably blot at this point. The cracking on my chin did get worse, and there is a little bit of wear and tear on my forehead. You see that crease on my forehead? It looks more or less the same as it did in the last check-in. On the cheeks, I think it's holding together okay. It's looking a little crusty around my acne, but nothing worse than my other foundations. I'd say it's more or less on par. The one issue I'm seeing is this foundation seems to really settle into every line. It doesn't seem very forgiving. Around my cheek area, I mean, I already have quite a bit of scarring from when I used to pick my skin, but the texture from my other foundations never looks this intense. I would compare it to like the surface of an orange. Like if you put foundation over the peel, you would still see all the pores and the texture. That's what I'm getting with this foundation. Right now, from like a foot or two away, it really doesn't look that bad. I'm just lukewarm about it. But that is it for this check-in, so I will see you at the end of day one. All right, it is the 10-hour mark, and this is actually the first time I've seen myself since the last check-in. I got Disney Plus, and I decided I want to watch all the Avengers movies, and then I watched it in the order of Avengers, then the Age of Ultron, and then Endgame. And when I got to Endgame, about 7 minutes in, I realized I'm missing a ton of information. So then I had to look up a list of the order I have to watch all the movies. That's what I've been doing. I'm actually gonna go ahead and blot right now. The sheets that I use will be listed in my description box below. I actually went ahead and blotted only half my face so that I could see the difference between the two. First off, before I blotted, I hate my chin area. It looks so cakey. So tomorrow I'm definitely gonna go easy in this region because it looks very makeup-y. I blotted on this side and you can see that the blotting sheet picked up my foundation, so it's bare underneath. So it does lift off and leave splotches of my skin exposed. The cheek area, I guess it looks all right. I can see that it lifted off. I'm just gonna go ahead and blot this side just because it's driving me nuts. Oh my God, I have exactly 2 blotting sheets left. Okay, I have to order these on Amazon. Yeah, the same thing's happening on this side of my nose with the blotting sheets. I have a little bit of foundation missing. Maybe I can touch it up a little bit and kind of just redistribute. I don't know if that really helped. Okay, so from what I've gathered today, both sides with or without primer were quite oily. I didn't think that the side with a mattifying primer was any less shiny than the side with nothing underneath. As far as my thoughts on the foundation working with my skin, if I get up close, I can see the imperfections. They mostly are up here on my nose and my chin. It's so-so. I'm not in love with this foundation. So that is it for day one. Good night. All right, so it is the second day of the wear test. I am in my beauty room. I always prefer doing my makeup in my beauty room versus my filming area. There's something about it that is just so cathartic for me. So I thought I'd just change it up and do my makeup here. I know it's not super professional, but today I chose not to use primer under my foundation. So foundation is directly on top of my skin. And then right before I applied foundation, I put on a thin layer of the Dermablend loose setting powder. And I basically put that everywhere on the center of my face because that is where I get the oiliest first. And then after that, I applied my foundation with my sponge. I did 2 pumps on the first layer and then I waited 4 minutes before I applied my second layer. And I do that because I feel like that is enough time for the foundation to set. Sometimes when I go in too soon with the second layer, I end up just moving around the first layer as opposed to adding extra coverage. And on the second layer, I added another 2 pumps and I ended up not using all of it. There's still a little bit left. So I'd say my face has about 3.5 pumps, which is about half of what I used the first day. After that, I applied everything else, my entire makeup routine exactly the same as I always do it. It looks exactly the same as it did on the first day, initially at least, which is why I felt I didn't need to be in my filming area because they look exactly the same and you've already seen what it looks like initially in my filming area. I've been wearing this foundation for about an hour and a half, and I'm hoping to check in around the 5-hour mark, the halfway point, in much better natural lighting than this. Until then, goodbye. All right, it is the 5.5-hour mark and today's wear test compared to yesterday, it's like night and day. I remember at the 2-hour mark on the first day, I already saw that the foundation around my chin area was already starting to crack, starting to break up. I wasn't really happy with that. By applying less today, I don't see that issue anymore. Everything is in place and I'm not overly shiny right now. I'm really happy with the way that my makeup is looking. Around the 4 or 5-hour mark, that's when my base usually looks the best because my oils have mixed in with the powder powders and the foundation, so it's definitely more skin-like. So I think we're at the peak of the best it's gonna look for the day. But today's wear test is going so much better. I don't know if it's because I added powder underneath or maybe because I applied less. Maybe it's both. But by doing both of those things, my opinion of this foundation has changed a lot. It's still too early to give my final thoughts, so I'm gonna wear this for another 5 hours, and by then I will for sure know whether or not I like this. But for now, things are looking up. All right, so it is now 10 hours later. I don't know why, but my dog is very clingy at the moment. So she was very insistent that she had to be right next to me. Hi, baby girl. Also, I went ahead and removed my liquid lipstick and also my lashes, so my eyeliner is totally messed up. I do not understand how people can read with false lashes on. I can't get past seeing the false lashes when I look straight ahead, so when I'm reading, it's extremely distracting. So I'm like internally telling myself, okay, you have to get used to it. Try your best not to focus on the false lashes. But then I'm focusing on not focusing on the false lashes. Does that even make sense now that I've said it aloud? I feel like it does. But my experience with this foundation today is so different than it was the first day. As far as oiliness, I feel like I'm way less oily today than I was on the first day. And all the areas where my foundation was breaking up, I feel like the powder underneath helped keep it together so much better. Okay, there's a little bit of liquid lipstick here, so please ignore that. But hopefully you can see on my chin area that the foundation doesn't look nearly as cracked on the first day. Same thing up here, I have a wrinkle and it's not as prominent that the foundation has settled. I can see it a little bit, but it's not bad at all. And same thing right here on my smile line. I always see the foundation settle in there, and today it's extremely faint. I can barely see it, if at all. If it was just a regular day, I don't think I would need to blot actually. I feel completely comfortable with the way my makeup looks as is, but I'm gonna go ahead and blot half my face anyways, just to show you the difference. Okay, so this half of my face is blotted. I can see a little bit of the foundation has rubbed off onto the blotting sheet, but it's not as bad as the first day. I'm sure I'm gonna say that a bunch more times. And same thing up here on my forehead, it lifted off a little bit, but I was totally happy with the way that this looked before I even blotted. Like I could wear this for another 2 hours and I'd be fine. So I'd say for 10 hours, that is some pretty good wear time. I'm really glad I've been doing multiple days of wear tests, because based on just yesterday, I would have written off this foundation and not recommended it to you guys. But that just goes to show you that first impressions mean nothing. At least not always. There are some things where I know right off the bat I won't like, but this is a really pleasant surprise. I'm not gonna lie, after day one, I was like 85% positive that I was gonna give this a more negative review. So if you had this foundation, you weren't able to get it to work the first time, my advice is to use either pressed or loose setting powder. I really think either would work, and applying a really thin layer over the areas where you get oiliest. So for me, it's my nose, this entire like center of my forehead, my chin, and my smile lines. You can add a little bit to the rest of the face, but for me, the center focus is this entire middle strip right here. And my next tip is to not overdo it with the layers. I think that made a really big difference, because the first day I used, I think, 6 pumps, and today I used 3.5. So using way less foundation, it didn't cake up and bunch up and settle in weird areas. Just because you can keep adding layers and making a foundation full coverage doesn't mean that you necessarily should. The foundation was advertised as medium buildable coverage. I would definitely agree with that. I still see a little bit of my discoloration. You know, not everything is completely canceled out, and that's totally fine. I think if you use a foundation for the way that it's intended, and then in general your wear time will be way better. With that being said, I am 100% comfortable with recommending this foundation. The coverage is pretty good, especially if you have more clear skin than me. Then I would say that this is going to be looking more full to someone with more clear skin, because they don't have a lot to cover up, unlike me. I wouldn't go past 2 layers with this, otherwise you're going to get what I had, which was the cakey, the bunching issues, the separating. Avoid all that, work in thin layers. If you are as oily as me, then put powder underneath and you should be good to go. So that is it for this review. I hope that it was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to give it a like, and feel free to comment down below what foundation that I should try next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.